All right, if you're watching this, chances are you're a huge nerd like all of us. If so, you're in luck because today we're going to look a little more closely at this special little fandom. I'm your host, Glop, and joining me are Ban,
Hello, everybody. It's Ben. I'm an idiot.
Red,
What's up, fam?
Step.
That's a great intro.
Bro, I thought we were recording. Spencer.
We are. God
Step.
damn it.
You going to say something, bro?
Yeah, how's it going? I'm Step. Let's make it a good show.
And Kay.
Hello, my name is Kay. What's up?
And they will be accompanying me as we look more closely at the fandom and what makes it so unique. So, kind of a broad topic, but I think that one of the things I've noticed about us is that, for starters, we really push a lot of norms in regards to the fact that we kind of stand out from anime, that, you know, we're not liking a nerdy show, we're liking something that little girls like.
Yeah, just to clarify too, to blow through that very quickly, the overall theme of the show will be to discuss multiple topics one at a time. And the first topic up for debate, as has been already established, is what makes the fandom unique. Personally, what makes it unique to me, things that I've noticed are obviously the surprising demographic of people that it is stemmed from, myself included, falling into that surprising demographic. And the fact that the people that it does attract are so passionate about it, in terms of the fact that they will actively participate within it, which you may not get nearly to the degree of other fandoms, whether it be music, TV shows, movies, what have you.
See, the thing that I think makes this fandom unique is the fact that even though it's a show for girls, it has reached out and it has helped people in their personal lives and how they feel about themselves. It has shown people that they can be who they are and still be accepted, even though they're not the social norm or anything like that. Would you guys agree with me on that or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, to even kind of jump off that, what you just said, the fact that it has had such a positive impact on some people's lives, I think, is one of the bigger highlights of the fandom as a whole. In the fact that even when you go to conventions, for example, there will be panels specifically directed at like dissecting parts of the show and the positive messages they can bring. People can oftentimes have their own anecdotes for how they have understood that implication within the episode. And pretty much everyone that you can find will have some sort of personal story to some degree or another about how that's positively impacted them, for sure.
Yeah, I think you'll be hard-pressed to find anyone that has actually had a negative impact from this show. The only people you'll find like that are the closed-minded people who won't even give it a chance.
Those we call haters.
Right, but I think we've all been at that point before. I mean, especially me. You know, I was first kind of exposed to it by a friend. 6 years ago, they kind of briefly introduced me to it, and I said, "No, man, it's not for me." And then 2 years later, down the road, I'm searching through YouTube, and I see something related to the show, and I kind of get inquisitive, like, what's so unique about it? Why should I care about this? So I think it's a little bit of a blanket statement to say that, only the haters can have an experience from it because, the thing is you really do have to kind of dip your feet in the water, so to speak.
And even including that same line of thought, I wouldn't necessarily say that people that have dismissed it or not given it a fair shake are necessarily haters, because it would be a very, very unfair statement to say that the show is for everyone. It's something that everyone's going to enjoy to a degree that the people that have actively found themselves in the fandom do. Much like Glop, I have accidentally happened upon the fandom through activities that kind of like slowly exposed it to me. I'm like, oh, what's this? This is interesting. Gave it a shot, loved it. But to say that the people that don't like it in that same sense, once they've been exposed to it, are haters, I think is kind of unfair, just in general.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really call them haters per se. What I was saying is that there is no real negative impact this show has had on anybody.
Okay.
Sure, you can watch it and not like it, but has it really hurt you?
I don't know, man. There's definitely some people that might have got bullied in school for liking the show. I mean, I have a friend of mine. I got a friend of mine who's in high school, and people gave him all kinds of shit for it because it's definitely not the norm. And, it's like I said, it's one thing to be a nerd and like anime, But when you like a show designed for little girls, it can rub some people kind of the wrong way, especially in a world where we're still really defining masculinity. And I think that a lot of people are kind of caught up in the older traditions that you can only like, tough stuff like sports and cars and things like that. So to just come on and be like, yeah, I really like these colorful horses, it's kind of a big deal to some people.
And to like swing it back down around to like the actual question as well, I think that's a really good point to bring up, because in what way that makes the fandom unique compared to others is most fandoms that you're participating in, whether it be like Beliebers or like Whovians or whatever that you think are
Flash from the past.
Yeah, whatever the fandom ends up being, you're not necessarily in general going to be harassed for liking it. You may not have the kind of support or enthusiasm from others, but to actually be outright bullied, as sometimes happens in this fandom, is a pretty unique factor. And I think one thing that really makes that important as far as how the fandom operates is it has a very big online presence. It has people flocking to the internet to express their ideas, since doing so in person is oftentimes very difficult. And when you look at some of the popular websites that provide this outlet, like Equestria Daily, for example, I was looking it up. It has 7,000 unique visitors per day, even in 2018, which many people would be considering past the fandom's prime. The fact that it's still getting 7,000 unique visitors is kind of inspiring to me, and shows that the fandom, at least at its passionate core, is still incredibly active and operates very heavily on the non-physical side of it as well.
Now, just to clarify, when you say unique visitors, do you mean like people who were not there yesterday, this is their first time on the site?
No.
Okay.
No, it would be 7,000 people. Just like if someone logs in twice to the site in one day, it would be one unique visitor, would be the implication.
Gotcha. Well, hey, Ben, you've been pretty quiet in all this. I'm just wondering if you've got any thoughts on your mind.
Oh, certainly. One of the craziest things that I have noticed about this fandom is it started back in 2012, and the origins of this fandom, I would say, is trolling. Trolling is what started this fandom, because the origins date back to 4chan, which, as we know, it's 4chan. And it mostly started as a bunch of people posting ironically about the show, and the moderators being really confused about why, even to the point of banning people from posting ponies, where you see one of the classic OG memes, the mods are asleep, post ponies, dating all the way back to 2010. I don't know of any other fandom that has started based on irony before.
Right, and not to mention that it kind of snowballed into something that nobody really anticipated. I know for a fact that the trolling with ponies on boards got so bad they had to actually delete it, and they had to send them off to their own board at some point. So,
yeah, I do know that one of the only rules that has ever been enforced to, I don't even know, whatever the random board is, it's like /B or something.
Yes, it's
was cannot post ponies. That's one of the only rules it's ever had.
I found it very funny, like, at one point. Like, I joined the fandom pretty late, like 2013? Question mark? Yeah.
That's
like,
late.
late season 2, early
That's
season
late,
3.
though.
2017
That's
here.
rather early.
Later than most people. Isn't it like 2011?
No,
Yeah,
I was late
2014,
2012.
2015 was the prime.
no,
Yeah.
he would be correct in saying that he joined late, because I would say that really a lot of the hubbub started up early in like 2011, 12, and then it started dying off slowly after about 2013, 2014. Not to say that it, dissipated entirely, but that it was really at its prime around 2013, 14. So jumping on at that time could be in some way looked at as late.
But
Yeah, because I was late 2012. Like, I didn't say late, but it was late 2012, so mainly 2013.
I was just going to add that I do recall seeing an EQD poll a couple months back, and the poll was literally, what date did you join the fandom? And I think that the overwhelming majority was 2011 through 2013, centered on like the 2012 timeline when season 2 was airing its sequel, the finale episode.
yeah, so I wouldn't really say
Really?
he joined in late.
I mean,
Especially if you look at like the convention numbers, because they peaked, as far as I know, in like 2014, 2015.
that looks like more like a standard kind of thing because like at first no one knows about it, and then it gains popularity, then it kind of dies down, kind of.
It's sort of like a bandwagon effect. Again, I think a lot of the early people that got into the show were sort of like hipsters. Because again, it was very popular on 4chan, and 4chan kind of has that bandwagon mantra where we're doing something that we think is funny or cool, so come on, everybody, jump along, play along. And I think that really, as it moved on in later years, you really could see where the true fans were, because everybody who really didn't care about it had moved on to the next biggest thing or the next growing fandom, so to speak.
I agree with that entirely. On YouTube, you would find around the 2012-2013 mark a lot of content being made for ponies as if it was a novelty sort of thing. You'd find popular YouTubers touching on aspects of My Little Pony, maybe doing cover songs or something to capitalize on the trendy aspect that the Brony community was back in 2012-ish, I would say.
And it really was. It really was just a trend for some people.
It was definitely just originally it was a very trendy fandom. That's why when you look at the numbers, they've been declining. It's because all the people that have realized that it's not the in thing to be a part of or hate have decided to leave to go be a part of more of the in stuff. So that's where you get all the declining numbers and all that fun stuff where people are like, oh, it's dying. This fandom's going to be dead because we're losing numbers. No, we're losing the people that didn't truly care.
So we're getting the numbers from like the convention.
Yeah, it's convention self-report in general, and they're pretty accurate for the most part.
Yeah, the convention is one of the better places to get membership numbers because it's the people that end up going over and over and over and over and over and over and over again that truly love this fandom. I know there's some that either can't afford it or they're not old enough or they don't like big crowds, but in general, that's where you would get most of your information for how popular a fandom is.
And while... Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm no. Step, go ahead.
I keep cutting off Kay. I apologize. I was going to say that while conventions are one of our talking points today, before we make the slow segue, there was one more interesting thing that I found when I was researching the uniqueness of the fandom, things that kind of set it apart. It was just a funny story, and I thought I'd bring it up because it's interesting. But way back in, it was either 2012 or 2013, The Hub, which was Discovery Family now, but formerly known as The Hub, which owned the My Little Pony franchise television show, actually had a PR gaffe, and they were trying to promote a show. It was one of their other kid shows. It was Care Bears, and they made a PR move that was apparently unsolicited, unbeknownst to the parent company. That was some post on the internet alluding to they wanted Care Bears to be the next Brony fandom. And in their post, they were encouraging people to watch the show and refer to themselves as both Belly Bros and Care Dudes. And this is a legitimate thing that the Hub promoted on their own. And the backlash for it was so severe that literally within the week they had to issue a Hub apology from their actual president of PR. It was like, this was an outsourced PR thing. It went under our radar. We didn't intend for this. But the reason I brought it up and the reason I thought it was interesting to the question of the uniqueness of the fandom is how hard it would be to replicate something like this happening, and trying to force it is just a futile attempt because it was so genuine in how it formed that I think that has encouraged a lot of the way that the fandom has unfolded in terms of how people feel acting within it and the level of safety they have expressing ideas and promoting their own self-content to others within it.
To be fair, I'm a belly bro, but it's more my love of desserts that gave me that title. Not my love for Care Bears.
Not a care dude, but you're a belly bro.
And I kind of want to go back a little bit to what we were talking about with like the bullying stuff because I have a story, but I didn't want to cut any of you off. I was probably one of the biggest haters of this show. I hated anyone that liked it. I hated anyone that talked about it. I hated anyone that even thought about it. I had actually made a kid cry, but that was because I had never given it a chance.
Are you sure you didn't take his
And-
lunch money?
No, I did not take his lunch money. I'm not that bad.
Merciful Red.
That
But-
bad.
For the record, if I could take it back, I would in a heartbeat. But the thing is, I can't. But the reason why I did that is because I didn't understand it, and I kind of had a reputation to uphold per the social norm. I didn't give the show a chance, so I automatically hated it. Whereas after that, I thought, you know what? Before I hate on someone again, hurt their feelings, make them cry, whatever, I should give this a chance. And boy, karma came back and bit me because I love this show.
Yeah, talking more talking about bullying. Like I still play on Gmod. Yes, it's very old. I know. Don't give me shit for that. But anyway, yeah. At one point there was like, on Steam you could see profile pictures, right? And there was like these pony profile pictures. Like there were, I think, 2 people who were on the server at the time, and then they kept on the other people kept on heckling them. So basically I switched my admin account and then just changed that account's profile to a pony, and I'm like, dude, stop. Like it is real. I mean, you can see it everywhere, but I mean, it's just a sad thing that happens on the internet when
Oh,
you
it's a
can't see
sad,
each other. Yeah.
it's a sad thing that happens anywhere. I think it's even worse in real life because there's nothing to stop that person from targeting them over and over and over and over and over again. On the internet, you can at least log off and go do something else. In real life, you don't have the option to log off and go do
Especially
something else.
especially when it becomes personal and beyond a username or just a website. When they know who you are and when they have the ability to harass you over and over, as Greg said, it's a very different animal.
Oh, yeah. Well, going back to my experience on the other side, I'll call it that, I knew the person and I knew what would hurt them the most. So I kind of targeted on that, and it's completely different. Once you target them personally, it hurts 100 times more.
No, I would agree with you, especially since when you are targeting something with that, it's not necessarily like you even have to look hard for what it is. It's obvious that someone who, if they are a generally insecure person or have social anxiety of any sort, would be naturally inclined to be quote unquote embarrassed or bashful about something, such as being involved in the My Little Pony fandom. So when you know that they are, and if they do happen to be predispositioned to have, like, as I said, social anxiety, it can really mess someone's psyche up, and it could really make them second guess their choices. And that's not a good thing in the slightest, especially if it's one of the places where they found as a safe space and really is one of their safe havens for finding happiness and being around people that they enjoy being with.
Which I think kind of raises the point, Ban. You've mentioned from time to time that you yourself are a little bit more introverted. Have you ever experienced something like that where, bullying, or to what degree did that impact you? Or did it not impact you at all?
Personally, I haven't experienced too much of the bullying. Luckily, I was attended a very progressive high school and relatively progressive university. So I did firsthand experience, did not witness a lot of this bullying personally, but there are many, many, many examples. Just talking to anyone in the fandom, they will either themselves or have known someone who has been a subject, have been a victim of this kind of bullying.
Okay, now when you say progressive, do you mean like everybody was into really weird stuff, or or bullying was just something that was absolutely not tolerated? Like,
oh, it was everyone has skeletons in their closet. Everyone's into something weird. I mean, we had a massive LGBTQ whatever student alliance.
See, that's another thing that I think factored into the way I treated people, is because I was at a rather conservative kind of high school. The area I live in, it's rather conservative. There's a reason why everyone calls us rednecks.
Ooh.
So when there was someone that was into something different that people didn't originally think was normal, everyone just kind of ganged up on them. And I was a more popular kid. I was friends with almost everybody that was normal, per se. So when you saw someone like that, you couldn't stay one of the cool kids, I guess you could say, and like them at the same time. So at that time, I thought, damn, I'm going to lose all my friends. It was more of an insecure thing, really, since I was a rather depressed person in high school. So when I saw other people's happiness, I had to bring them down to my level to give me like a pseudo happy, I guess is what you could call it. So when I would see something like that, I would target it and I would go after them. And that's really the only reason why I would go after somebody, was to keep my happy feeling around a little longer, which is usually the story for most bullies. A lot of them aren't secure with themselves, so they will target you to make themselves feel better, because once they feel they're higher than you, they're happy, air quotes.
And kind of going off the securities and insecurities, to kind of do a 180 here, I feel like that's another thing that's really, bizarre about the fandom, is that the resilience that we have, the fact that we can like something like this and embrace it and really not care what others think. I mean, obviously bullying hurts, but the fact that you can take it, embrace it, and be like, yeah, I really do love this thing. I think it's pretty interesting. I think it's pretty cool. It really speaks volumes as to the morals that the show not only teaches you, but repeats and impresses upon everybody who's a part of it.
Yeah, and on that same note too, the pun aside, the herd mentality that you would find in the fandom is, I think, especially pronounced compared to a lot of fandoms that you may be able to think of off the top of your head. And that would be, in my opinion, just off the fact that the morals of the show are defined around like being there for other people, knowing when people need you, that sort of thing. And I think that the resilience of the fandom that you mentioned could be heavily tied to that fact. Like, if someone is having trouble in their personal life, if someone's having trouble outside of, the little safe haven that we've set up for each other on the internet, at conventions, whatnot, then they always have someone that they can fall back to. And I think that it's pretty likely that you're going to find people there for you when you need them in that regard, which a lot of fandoms might not be there to offer, especially if they have no reason to quote unquote care about you. This fandom will find a reason to care about you if you want it.
Yeah. The most unique thing about this fandom, in my opinion, is the fact that it embraces insecurities and differences. And groups of people will not do that. They will shun anything that is different from the way they think they should be. Whereas
Exactly.
the Brony fandom is like, oh, you're different? Here, come over here, sit with me. We're a little different too, but it doesn't matter. We're all people and we're all different. So there's no reason for us to hurt you.
Or put up walls.
In reality, if you wanted to, you could come over and hurt me.
Speaking of helping each other, like, since we're on the topic of bullying, so pretty much anyone around you would probably be willing to help if you're being bullied. Like, if you're being targeted, like at a school, just say to a teacher or someone, like, don't be afraid to like speak up sometimes. I mean, it will never really go away unless if you kind of speak up. I mean, it's kind of hard to do so. Like, I've been in kind of those shoes too, but yeah, I mean, just speak up and try to get help on your own, or like even go on forums or something and just try to seek help from there too. If you get what I'm saying.
I might sound like a dick or an asshole or something like that, but the whole telling the teacher thing might actually harm you in the long run. Like, sure, it'll help you, but when they find out that you went to someone like that, an adult, they will target you harder because they knew they hit you where they wanted to hit you. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Whereas with this fandom, you can seek help from your peers. If you know someone else that's into the show, you could be like, "Hey, this guy's trying to hurt me. How do you stop from being hurt by other people?" Be like, "Oh, hey, I do this, I do that. I just ignore them. I fight them. I kind of hit them with the, yeah, I like ponies. What's so bad about that?"
And I also am inclined to agree with Greg here for several reasons. One, it's not only people who are of school age who deal with harassment / bullying. People who are adults definitely have these similar problems happening as well. And sometimes there just aren't higher ups who can answer the problem. Like, you oftentimes have to either be able to be resilient,
to learn how to
find someone, one of your peers,
not hurt you. Yeah, exactly, one of your peers. Like with me, since I got into the show, my family gives me shit all the time, but I ended up learning to just give it back, I guess is the way to say it, so it doesn't really hurt me or bother me as much. Kind of just turned into a giant meme.
Going along with the whole bullying aspect of this fandom, I think it's worth it to throw a little bit of numbers into what exactly is the demographic, especially in terms of age, because as you were all speaking about, it's not necessarily just people in school who get bullied, but I feel like you face a lot less bullying after a certain age, perhaps. So according to this website, Herd Census, a few years ago, you may have remembered there were a group of social researchers who decided to put together a survey about bronies. So they did so 2012, 2013, 2014. I have some interesting numbers here about individuals ages 15 to 29 in 2012 made up 90%, about 90% of the brony fandom. And in 2013, ages 15 to 25, it was 79%. In 2014, it was 15 to 25 was 75%. So we are talking about a very large portion of this fandom being in the almost counterculture, rebellious period of their lives, which leads to a lot of the bullying. But I also would argue led to a lot of the growth, because individuals in that age range have a tendency to like things that are weird or odd, especially when you're trying to find yourself and find who you are as a person.
Oh yeah, but then again, it doesn't really detract from the bullying, because you have the older people that we all know hate people of that age range because we don't do anything, or we're different. We don't know who we are, so they go after us. Like, I mean, it's as a whole, but it still affects us. If they found out that we like to show for little girls, I can guarantee you most people over the age of like 35, 40 would do some form of bullying.
Really? Because I don't know. I mean, talking from experience, my parents, I mean, they were into Star Trek. And I mean, at the time, yeah, it was the cool thing to like, or Star Wars, right? But I think, if anything, a lot of the older people are a little bit more accepting. They've been around. They've seen people be interested in weird or bizarre things. I feel like it's really just your peers that determine what kind of, whiplash you get. Because, those are the people that you probably see the most.
I kind of disagree with that, though, because the majority of people, although at that time like Star Trek, now they will see something that they never liked being liked, so they will go after. I have been the victim of this multiple times because I have worked with older people. They have found out what I like, and they'll just constantly dog you about it.
But is it
There's
really
a couple of
is it dogging to
that
the
we'll
point
talk-
where they're going over the top? Like they are purposely trying to make you feel bad. They don't want you to be at the workplace because I mean, again, I have a coworker who I've, let her know that hey, I'm into this thing. I went to this convention, whatever. And she's like, "Huh, I've heard about it." She's like, "It's kind of weird, but I'm willing to listen." And she listened. And I mean, she hasn't really given me any flack for it. She might tease me every now and then, but it's not like a kind of hey, Glop, I really don't like you in this workplace, so let me make you feel like an absolute trash bag. You know what I mean?
See, that's not necessarily what I'm getting at. Is for me, no, they don't make me want to leave the workplace. In fact, they make me want to say it or express it more because I love getting on people's nerves, especially people that try to act like that. No, they just kind of use it as a way to like tease you because I've worked in a lot of shop situations and those people will constantly go after each other for anything. So for me, it's not a problem, but for the common brony who has kind of social problems, anything like that, they're a little different. They might find it too much.
I find that kind of funny. The common brony were anything but.
I mean, you know what I mean, though. Like the average brony.
Again,
So let's take a step towards something else that makes this fandom extremely unique, and I think we all kind of touched on it at least once or twice. Is for me, it's the content that this fandom generates. I've never seen anything like it before.
Oh yeah, the content's crazy. There's a reason why when I had a working CD player in my vehicle, because it doesn't anymore, I would jam out to just fandom music because not only is it a topic I like, it's actually really, really good.
Yeah.
There's quite a few bangers.
I mean, I was talking to Red the other day, and he literally just got me to download a music app that he was talking about. It's called Brony Tunes, but it's just fandom music, like he said, and it's kind of like a Spotify, except for music that has been made about or within the fandom.
Sort of like Ponyville FM, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Kinda, yes.
Yeah.
It's just they have an archive of it, and it's an app for your phone. So you can download it for your phone, and you can look up like, oh, I want to listen to Aviators, and you just type in Aviators, and it will show you almost, if not all of the Aviators music that they have made for the fandom. And you can put it on your phone and listen to it. And you can make a play, like just open it up and then hit play, and it'll cycle through all the music.
Now, does that app undergo like updates? Because I know that we should all know that there are constantly new musicians that are joining, making things, and so it's very easy to find, the archives of some of the older, more well-known names. But when we talk about some of the underground things you'd find on Ponies at Dawn or A State of Sugar, those artists are often a lot harder to find, and the work that they put out.
I'm not 100% sure. Hey, Step, you have it downloaded on your phone, right? My phone's dead, so I can't check it.
I don't have it downloaded. It is on my to-do list. I kind of, lied about that, but it is something I am definitely going to do.
Oh no,
No,
the
but
truth
like
comes
I
out.
have no, but like it is. It was literally yesterday we were talking about it, but I am planning on downloading it. The one thing I do want to talk about with the fandom, and I kind of touched on it earlier, I believe the reason that we have such diverse content is due to the fact that the people that are being the creators of it are, as we said, the everyday brony, more so than any other fandom I can imagine. And I haven't seen that many fandoms, but more than I can imagine, everyday people are encouraged to participate. For example, I made my own original character for this talk show. It's not something that I would have ever considered doing. It's something that everyone just encouraged me to do, and I did it. And I imagine it's that way as well when you start talking about fan fictions, when you start talking about people that have any kind of musical inclination. If you have anyone that wants to create their own artwork, like it's something that you just kind of fall into doing, even if you never really expected it's something you would do, just because it's sort of the norm and people feel comfortable talking to these other people.
Well, I know that Band's had a lot of experience making content. I mean, he's done artwork, he's done some music, and a couple other things. I'm just kind of wondering, where you feel about all this.
I have dabbled, Mr. President. In terms of content creation, I would have never, ever dreamed about doing anything like a making videos in the way that I've been making videos, or drawing to the extent that I've been drawing, if not for this fandom. I've seen people go from not being known, they're just an anonymous person on Twitter, Tumblr, whatever, and all of a sudden everyone loves them. It's a true testament of how this fandom will lift up people for no real reason other than the fact that they enjoy what they make.
And they're horse famous.
So fantastic. It's so fantastic to me, just that you can elevate to be almost through sheer will.
And I mean, I, as someone who actually joined the fandom late, joined in 2017, have been catching up with all of the quote unquote like content history that this fandom has produced in the last 7-8 years. And I'm still finding stuff that's being made today, like stuff that I have, since I have joined, there is stuff that has been produced that wasn't there before from new people that weren't there before. Like in the 10 months that I have been a part of this fandom, new content creators have come and become big that wouldn't have existed had I tried looking for them when I first joined. And I think that alone is a really interesting concept.
For example, Red, you are creating something that I've never really seen or heard before.
Like, what do you mean? What am I creating?
Your merchandise that you plan to vend.
Oh, self-plugging. If you go on Etsy to Red Gus Glass, you will see one of my mugs. I do sandblasting mugs. So I will take line art from a buddy of mine of a cutie mark or a symbol, and I will put it through my vinyl cutter and put it on my mugs, and then I will run it through a sandblaster, and it will permanently put that image onto the glass.
Would you ever thought about creating something like that before the show?
Oh, hell no. There is no way I would have ever thought to have this idea. Yeah, this is an idea that was born from my love for this fandom.
Personally, I haven't really seen another fandom with quite so much quantity of content. The only thing I could think of that might even come close is perhaps the Sonic fandom. And I'm not saying that just because someone took one of the song covers that I made and slapped some Sonic images on it and got 12,000 views on it. That's not why I'm saying that at all. I genuinely think that the amount of content that bronies create is unrivaled.
Well, I don't know if it's unrivaled per se, because you have the people that are into comics, you have the people that are into Star Wars, you have the people that are into Star Trek, you have all that kind of stuff, science fiction. But between the bronies' quantity and their quality is higher than most other fandoms I have ever seen. We have some of the best artists, in my opinion. We have some of the best music creators, in my opinion. It's just every aspect, we have someone that excels at what they do.
I would agree that the sheer magnitude of the bronies might not stack up against fandoms such as Star Trek or Star Wars. But then again, if you take time into consideration, we've grown to something like as this big in less than a decade, whereas Star Trek and Star Wars have had multiple decades to marinate and grow in popularity as well.
Oh yeah, our group numbers will never reach that. I can almost guarantee you that we will never be as big as Star Wars is, or Star Trek, or Marvel, DC. But the amount of people we have that out super high quality art, super high quality music, especially since I just came back from a Comic-Con, the higher amount of high quality artists among all stretches of it. There's some that make Star Wars art. There's some that make crazy Star Trek art. There's some that make good Star Trek remixes, good Star Wars remixes, but you do not find it in the quantity that I have found brony stuff. And I am a huge Star Wars fan, huge Star Wars nerd. So I actually look for that stuff. So I feel that the bronies still have it better. We might not be as big of a group. We might not have the higher numbers for artists or anything like that, but we definitely have the quality.
And I'm glad you brought up Comic-Con because that kind of raises the point of conventions. And I'm very curious to see how you feel that Comic-Con differentiates itself from some of the events we put on, like BronyCon or TrotCon.
Honestly, from what I saw, it really doesn't pull away from it or anything like that. The way it is run, BronyCon and TrotCon and all of them have actually, from what I've seen, emulated the way any kind of convention works, especially a Comic-Con. So it's kind of the same. And when you go to Comic-Con, you will see people that have chose to, instead of dress up as Captain America or dress up as Darth Revan from Star Wars, they will dress up as Rainbow Dash, or they will dress up as Twilight Sparkle, or anything like that. Like today, I saw a Rainbow Dash, I saw Queen Chrysalis, I saw a Twilight Sparkle, and I saw a Shining Armor. And even some of the booths at Comic-Con will have some form of art for ponies, even though that's not their target audience that is there. They'll still have it because they know those people are there.
Or maybe we're just planning we're planning a slow takeover of the event so that we can monopolize conventions and prove why we're the best fandom.
One of our voice actors, Tara Strong, is all over the place anyway. So
right, gotta replace BronyCon somehow. We gotta start sinking our roots somewhere.
Speaking of that, I feel that with BronyCon going next year, as much as I hate to see it, I'm sad. I was actually like, what the hell? I didn't think it was ending because I know some of the people that are higher up in it. And they had told me before that they thought it was going to go for a couple years. So it kind of hit me as like a super shock to hear that it was ending next year. But with that, it allows all the smaller cons to grow.
Yeah.
So it kind of spreads the wealth and spreads the love around everywhere. Sure, it's a chapter that's closing, but there's multiple chapters that can open from it.
No, I agree entirely. Speaking on behalf of someone that's only going to TrotCon, I was also looking at the TrotCon attendance numbers. They said they were looking at 700 in 2012, then 900, 1,000, 1,200, et cetera, et cetera. They have a pretty solid growth going into 2015. It started to drop off in 2016. The most recent numbers aren't out. But I'd be very interested following the 2018 dissolval of the BronyCon to see whether or not they see a slight resurgence in their attendance numbers.
Oh, honestly, since as far as I know, they are one of the only, if not the only, East Coast con that's left. I feel their numbers will skyrocket.
And I agree.
Actually, the recent numbers are out. They released it like the day after, and I think they had almost 900 people that attended it this year.
Sounds right.
So they're staying steady at the very least.
Oh yeah, they're not shrinking exponentially like, let's say, BronyCon has. BronyCon shrank in 3 years by 50%.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with you when you say that there's definitely going to have to be somewhere that these people want to go, because you're not going to just want to stop going. It's just not realistic. These people have built it into their year. They look forward to it yearly. So when you take it away, TrotCon is a great, and other conventions are great outlets to.
Some people, this is the only time they get to truly express who they are. That's why I had so much fun at my first convention ever. Was BronyCon last year. I had so much fun at it because I could actually be myself and not worry about being judged.
That was actually something I was going to talk about as well, in terms of the actual convention aspect of the fandom. In addition to just being a great way to meet people, this is how I met a lot of these great people on this talk show today. I think it's a really great place to find yourself and who you want to be without being judged, without having to feel fear of repercussions, as long as you're doing something that doesn't hurt anyone else. Like, for example, when I was at my first convention, I tried things that I would have never tried in other settings. I went to the rave. I did some karaoke. Like, there's just so many activities for people that want to try new things, and it's a great place to do it.
Yeah. I mean, before I went to BonyCon, I am the only one here that actually went to BonyCon this year. You guys are a statistic. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. Just saying. Anyway.
Absolutely.
Anyway, yeah, they all went to TruckCon. I went to BonyCon. It's a conspiracy. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I learned like how to do like Twilight shipfic. That's one thing I learned I would never have done in a real setting. Like,
The game is a ton of fun, by the way.
it is fun.
For anyone who hasn't tried it, try it.
I'm excited.
It's a ton of fun. It's
excited to
confusing.
learn it.
It's
You guys
confusing
get
as hell.
you guys-
definitely try.
You guys get like a lot of crack ships too out of it too. It's pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, I would have never learned it if I didn't actually go to cons that other people played it at. So I mean, that's an interesting thing too. Like, I mean, you learn new things and it's a great experience. So I mean, you should go to at least one. I mean, if you go to one, you go to them all. You have to go to them all.
It's like a Pringles. You can't just go to one.
No, you can't. You should definitely go to one. And if there's anyone in our chat that hasn't been to BronyCon and you can have even kind of an inkling of going to the next one, I would recommend it. I always recommend BronyCon for to go to at least once if you're in this fandom.
No, you have to go to BronyCon. It's the last one. Come on.
Now,
There's still people.
there are some other pretty big long-running conventions here in the United States. Just to touch on a few, BronyCon's in Baltimore, obviously, but the second largest, I believe, here in the United States is Everfree Northwest, which is located in Seattle.
Yes, it is.
There's a pretty
It
big
is.
one in San Francisco. That's
BabsCon.
BabsCon. There's some smaller ones, but still relatively consistent. Ponyville Cider Fest, which is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. TrotCon in Columbus, Ohio. Winnie City PonyCon in Schaumburg, Illinois. Crystal Mountain PonyCon is happening this year, but won't happen anymore after this. It's in Provo, Utah. And one that a relatively new convention is High Roller PonyCon, which had their first convention ever this past summer, located in Las Vegas, Nevada.
And I'm definitely interested to see the evolution of the High Roller Con. I think that's a really interesting concept for pony conventions, and I think giving it a venue like Las Vegas is a really interesting concept, especially since that region has been. I would imagine people from that region may have been frustrated in the past due to the lack of options they were given.
Yeah. I mean, they're all like, the problem is like probably for most people to go to conventions, like travel. It's probably gonna be like, I live in the West Coast, like literally right next to the convention, like not like 30 minutes away, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, for me it's pretty easy to go, but I can't, like, I splurged and went to BronyCon this year, so I mean, you guys can probably do it too. I mean, it's pretty fun to go out to different cons in general. Like, I've always, like, for 2 years I actually went to BabsCon, but like for this first, like this was the first year ever I went to BronyCon. I don't regret it at all.
No, I would never regret my decision to go to BronyCon last year.
Yeah,
I had thought for multiple years, I should go, and then I had an inkling in the back of my head where I'm like, no, I shouldn't go because people will find out and I'll get teased for it.
And it's worth mentioning. Sorry, continue.
Sorry about that. Don't listen to that voice in your head at all. Just ignore it, because if you don't go, especially since the next year is the last one, you will regret it for the rest of your life. I can 100% guarantee that. It is something you should definitely try to do.
When I went to TrotCon, I didn't know a single person there. I went for it, showed up at the door, and was like, all right, let's do this. Let's make it happen. And it is worth mentioning that we've been focusing on the States. If there's anyone listening, either now or in a future date, who doesn't live in the United States, there are conventions pretty much across the world. Some in Europe. There's definitely one in Australia, Japan. I don't have the exact list in front of me, but do your own research. I know Equestria Daily posts their own lists of conventions that are scattered around each year. Like that, the list for 2018 has been out for about 8 months now, and you can just look and see what the closest one to you is, and try to make appropriate traveling accommodations, because it's, as we've said, something that I would highly recommend to everyone try at least once.
Oh, for sure. Two of the bigger ones that are international that I know of are GalaCon, which happened, I think, the same weekend, if not the weekend after BronyCon, and Japan PonyCon is another big one. So if those are your closest options, I would definitely go for those. It's a ton of fun. Conventions are one of my favorite things to do now.
Kind of going off. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, kind of going off what Spencer was saying, because I was really curious about that. He had mentioned that we were talking about him going alone, and I think that a lot of people are kind of worried about that because maybe they haven't made the friends in advance beforehand. To go into a little bit more detail, I had actually attended TrotCon for the first time last year, and none of my close personal friends were into the show, and so I kind of just showed up alone. And while I did walk away with some friends, it wasn't exactly, what I had anticipated. So I'm kind of curious to see maybe what Ban or Red has to say about, planning in advance or kind of just going and not knowing what to expect.
Okay, well, for my take on it, planning in advance, I kind of planned per se. I knew I was going to go that year. That was about as far as my plans went. As soon as we got closer to it, I thought, oh, crap. I don't have enough money for a hotel by myself, so I have to room with people. And as much as I love this fandom, I'm still, part of the old me is still in me. So I'm like, oh no, I have to room with people that are part of this fandom. So I kind of had my reservations, but I'm like, you know what? It's either that or I don't go. So I decided to go on the BronyCon forums for a room share. That's actually where I met Ban and a couple other people that I still talk to today. So I feel that you can make lasting friendships. You can meet people that you will talk to for years. Because I would like to think that me and Ban are good friends.
We are. Of course we are.
Yeah. I mean, if we weren't, I wouldn't have ever invited you to my house. So,
Or been on the same talk show.
That too. Would never have done this. But conventions are where I have met. I would like to go as far to say all of the friends that I can talk to about well, not all of them, most of them, probably about 90% of the friends that I can talk to about this show and not feel like I'm going to be either ostracized or castrated or anything like that. So I can't remember what Glop's first question was, but
I guess I'm just curious.
Sorry.
I guess I'm just curious. What would you say to somebody if they say, "Hey, I really want to go to this convention, but none of my friends are into it." As you mentioned, the forums are a good way, but what else do you think that they could do to kind of ease that, uneasiness?
I could chip in on that.
Go ahead, Kay.
So basically, I actually went alone too, but like you meet some friendly people. Like sometimes you play roommate roulette, and then you get lucky. Sometimes you don't, but I mean, you always have that option. But sometimes, like if you watch any kind of streams like this one, or any other like artist streams, like I mean, any other artist streams, you would meet people that you would talk to people that would actually go to these cons, and you could probably like get connections from them. And also like because like one friend I met from a stream, I mean, I met them, I tried to meet up with them, and I managed to do that too. I mean, it's like it's not that hard to try to find people who would be willing to help in this fandom, like we said earlier. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
If you want to add on to that, Red.
Kinda, I think. The people you'll meet on streams, it's kind of hard to gauge if they're in this fandom. So for some people, it'll be like, oh, should I mention it? Should I not? Whereas with the forums, you can find people that you know for a fact are into what you're into. So forums, Discord's another good place. But yeah, you'll find people that won't make fun of you, won't ostracize you, won't castrate you, won't make you want to hurt yourself, to talk to about this, or maybe make friends, meet up, anything like that. But for the people that are like, oh, I want to go, but none of my friends are going to go, so I'll be alone, I say do it. Definitely do it. Don't listen to the little voice that's like, oh, I'm alone, so I'm going to be alone for the whole time. It's not going to be fun for me. It will be fun for you. You'll find other people that you can talk to. You'll find other people that you'll make friends with. Definitely go. 100%.
It will be very hard to step outside your comfort zone, especially once you've set into a rhythm. But I can say from personal experience, no matter what level of planning or preconceived notions you may have about what's going to happen, those usually fall through. The room share that Red was talking about earlier, I had it full, 3 other people in the room, and every single one of those people initially, except for one, dropped it. And it was due to that fact that I found a buddy just say, hey, you need a room? And it turned out to be Red. And here we are. And another example of this is I joined the Discord server on a whim for a convention. Popped into this random channel called Room Share because I just kind of decided last minute to go to TrotCon. And I found someone who needed a roommate.
Which may or may not have been me.
Yep. It was that person.
And I think
the funny thing is that I was even more last minute for a room share for TrotCon, because I had originally said, you know what, I want to go, but then I thought, you know what, I have work. I don't think it'll be a good idea. But I was talking to Ban, and I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to do this. And he's like, oh, you know what, I found a room. You could just room with us. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, he's a dude. He seems really cool. He's actually right next to you. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, he only lives 10 minutes from you. I'm like, no way. So I, through a convention, through a room share, I wouldn't have done years ago. I found another person that I would consider a friend, which is Glop.
Which, I guess, to kind of go off that, I really wasn't sure how successful the Discord was going to be. For example, we were talking about TrotCon. The forums are mostly dead on there. And really, I had found that Discord was kind of the new thing everybody was going on. And there's honestly a plethora of Discords dedicated just to brony stuff, brony activities, and conventions. Both of these gentlemen raise a good point that, the room shares, things like that, it really is a great way to get to kind of familiarize yourself with someone else. For example, Ban and I had talked in the weeks leading up to the convention, discussing logistics, like how much are we going to pay for the room, as well as getting to know each other. And in that sense, it's a sort of no committal, nice way to find another person that you can spend some time with at the convention and make it not so scary and lonely. So
some people you don't really end up meeting in person. Kay, I don't think any of us have met you in person, but we share a Discord server.
Yes, you do.
We talk to Kay all the time. Even though I've never met him face to face, I would still consider Kay a friend.
I met one of your friends.
Yeah, you met one of my friends, but you haven't met me. I am definitely one of the best people you'll ever meet. Let me stroke my own ego for a second.
There's the bully mentality.
Humble brag.
That's not bullying. I love myself. But no, this fandom has made me, or not made me. I've made friends through this fandom never have made otherwise. Especially online friends. I talk to a ton of people online. I talk to a couple of the staff for BronyCon. I've never met them, but I talk to them daily. I would consider them my friends. It's just, I've made so many relationships through this fandom itself that it's insane. Also, with Glop's comment about the forums being dead for most conventions, it's true. Always try to find their Discord. Every convention has a Discord, and that's where you will find all the life that's for that convention.
Actually,
you'll find.
I actually countered that. I actually found the room that I stayed at BronyCon through the forums.
BronyCon's kind of different though. BronyCon
Yeah.
is the biggest Brony convention there is, as far as I know. So that forum is still alive. But like, let's say you want to go to Cider Fest. I'm sure their forums are rather dead. Whereas the Discord is crazy. People talking it all the time. TrapCon, people talk in the Discord all the time. As Glop said, the forums are dead.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad idea to try both for all of them, but in general, the Discord would be better. One thing that I was thinking about, though, while we were talking about conventions that we haven't really talked about yet, is kind of the whole, like, I've done it so you can do it too mentality. And while that's all well and good, it still might seem scary from the outside in terms of, like, taking the first step. But let me be the first to say that these conventions aren't necessarily just one, like a one note type of thing where you have to like go to a panel, sit through a panel, talk with people in the hallway, whatever. You can literally experience them however you want. You can go to 15 panels, you can go to note panels, you can spend your whole time in the game room, you can spend it all outside. Like these conventions have been so diversified in terms of the amount of activities that you can have to do there that it's pretty much impossible to go and not have a good time, even if you're not necessarily doing it with the intent to meet people, which you should. But like, I think that anyone who would be necessarily
out there, buddy.
Uh-oh.
Well,
off
of what he was saying and what I think he was trying to say, you will always have fun at these conventions. Even if you think you won't, you could go in and not talk to anybody, and you could still have fun. You could spend all your time at a concert. You could spend all your time in the game room, as he had mentioned. You could sit in the lobby of the convention center or the hotel, and you would still find stuff to do and talk to people about stuff and have fun. Like my BronyCon experience, a lot of it was spent at what they call Brony Palooza, which is their concert. I just sat there and listened to fandom artists. So I wasn't really talking to anyone. I danced with a couple people, I guess you could say. It wasn't really me initiating anything or anything. They just kind of showed up and started dancing. But I still had a ton of fun. Before that, I was hanging out with an artist buddy of mine, and I got to meet him for the first time face to face. I got to meet other artists, which is really cool. But I wasn't doing anything. I was just kind of sitting there most of the time, silent, because he was talking to other people. But I was still having fun because it was something that I like to do and something I like to see. So if you're thinking, hey, I'll be alone, no one will talk to me, I don't want to talk to anyone or anything like that, try to ignore that feeling or those thoughts and go, because you will have a ton of fun no matter what you do.
Oh, one thing I want to add to that is, well, for my first con, I usually spent most of my time in the vendor hall, which was a bad idea since I lost all my money. Anyway, besides that point, yeah, for the first con I went, I was alone, but like, I mean, as Red said, I mean, you will definitely find people to talk to at these conventions. I mean, this is just reinforcing what Red said. But yeah. Anything to add, Step, or are you still desynced?
In the void, so to speak.
Yeah, we're working on it. I'm sorry, I'm in the void.
Yeah,
that's fine. That's fine. We can talk and let you fix your thing.
Yeah, continue.
Okay.
Oh,
so how fun?
I had a point, but I can't remember what it was.
What was your question, Kay? Sorry about that.
I was asking if you're back.
Yes, I am back. You asked if I had anything to add, though.
Yeah.
In regards to...
Do you have anything to add to... He had said
to,
that
like, convention,
you will always have fun at a convention no matter what, as long as you're into the fandom.
That is exactly what I was saying, yeah. And I caught you cleaning up what I was saying before I lost my internet. But basically, I think it's impossible to go to one of these conventions just for the fact that they are structured in such a way that you will find something to do there, whether it's staying outside, being in the game room, going to panels, not going to panels. There is something for everyone. And even if you go without the intent to meet people, you're going to meet people, and hopefully you end up connecting with them after the convention as well.
Kind of as a forewarning, though, if you decide to go even step foot in that vendor hall, you better have some money on you, because I went into my first convention with a $200 limit and I walked out with $700 worth of stuff. So you either have to have crazy self-control or a lot of money.
He was livid.
Oh, yeah. I was upset. I was so angry. Just ask Ben. I was bitching about it for days.
You would be like, oh, I want to buy that. Oh, I want to buy that. Oh,
that's
exactly
cool too. How I was like, oh, this print's awesome. Oh, this is awesome. Oh, a pocket watch. I want that. Oh,
but
you have $40 grab bags. I'll take 5. That was basically me, because I'm like, ooh, there's some cool stuff that could be in those grab bags.
Just saying, prints add up a lot.
Yeah, actually, prints are the thing that I spent the least on.
But they add up.
Oh, yeah, they add up. They add up
also,
for sure. But
if you ever go, just remember this. Get the badge. Get the discount badge. So yeah, get the
early bird badge?
No, not the early bird badge. I mean, if you really want something, you might want to get it. But I mean, get the BronyCon, the Brony Fund. What was it? The calendar badge.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
The Bronies for Cancer badge.
Is this something that
right? The Bronies for Cancer organization has a booth usually at the at BronyCon, and if you buy one of their badges, a lot of that you get some incentives at some of the other booths. If they see you wearing one, they might give you a discount on some of the merchandise.
You guys didn't tell me this. Oh man, I am triggered.
And it's for a good cause.
That was a thing. That is for a good cause.
I mean, if you can buy the calendar right now, you won't get the badge, but it will still be going to a good cause. Like, they sell calendars too.
Now, just to clarify, that's only at BronyCon, right?
It's at BabsCon too.
So.
Okay.
I know that they're at BabsCon for sure.
Because I had understood you guys were talking about the sponsor badges, which, if I'm correct, a lot of the different conventions have.
No, that's not what they were talking about. They were talking about a separate entity that has a badge you can buy, where you can display it, and people will look at it and be like, "Oh, you donated to the Bronies for Cancer, whatever it's called," and be like, "Hey, I'll give you this percentage off."
So
they were not at TrotCon.
So it's instant horse fame, essentially.
I guess. Kind of.
It shows that you have stature and clout.
Yes, it does.
Gotcha.
But going back to my point on you better have money if you step in that vendor hall. On the other side of that, you can meet a ton of people in the vendor hall. Like my first BronyCon, I met Vincent Tong, Kelly Sheridan, No Whacking, Jax Blades, AC Best. I met all the horse famous people and most of the VAs that were there.
Brony, come on. You met him, right?
Oh, yeah, I met him. I actually bought something from him. I bought one of his little guitar things. I don't know where it is.
Wait, you did? Isn't that like $150?
I can't remember how much it was.
Yeah, it's $150.
I spent $700. I can't remember what anything costs. It's just a ton of stuff that I have now.
A lot of great stuff too.
Great stuff. Yeah.
This will make a fine addition to my collection. That's basically me at that vendor hall. So, but yeah, I talked to him and stuff like that.
And it is worth mentioning too for anyone listening. Like as far as the whole like money aspect of conventions go, I went to the convention with a very small fund in comparison. You don't have to go to a convention expecting to drop several $100s on merchandise.
No.
I left with a really cool $20 pack of like handmade playing cards that had members of the main 6 on it, cutie marks, whatever. Absolutely awesome pack of cards and a Pinkie Pie keychain. I love both of them. It was very inexpensive, and it's definitely not something that you have to be like, oh, I guess I can't afford it because even if the convention's only $40 or $50 or whatever, I'm gonna have to have $200 for merchandise. It doesn't work like that by a landslide.
No, it doesn't. What my point was is it was kind of like a jab at myself. But if you are really bad at self-control, then yes, you will spend hundreds of dollars. Like me, I'm terrible at self-control. I'm like, ooh, I have the money for this. Guess what? I could just swipe this card and buy it.
Oh, it's a plastic
But
card.
you can go in with a budget for yourself and look around, and you will always find something that you like that's within your budget. You will never walk out empty-handed if you wanted to buy something. There's people that sell stuff for $2. There's people that sell stuff for $50. There's the plush makers that sell stuff for up to like thousands of.
There is
Whatever
literally
your price range is, you will always find something for it.
there is literally free merchandise busting at the seams at these things as well. It's not necessarily the highest of quality or stuff that you might not have wanted, but it's free. So there is literally a price point for I don't want to pay for things.
Wait, there is?
There is.
Where are these things?
It was just a joke mostly, but one of the free things I did get there was a sticker from Pixel Kitties. Is that the name of the booth?
Oh, Pixel
Can anyone
Yes.
confirm?
Yes, that was
Yeah,
the
for
one.
example, Pixel Kitties had this like grab bag, random sticker thing, take your favorite sticker, and I got a picture of the characters from Full Metal Alchemist. There's a show no one remembers. Riding Pinkie Pie says friendship is metal. Hilarious. Didn't pay a cent for it. And there was also a person there who like had a spin wheel. You could get cards for Twilight Sparkle Ship Thick. You could get T-shirts from previous conventions, discounts on future conventions. Like they have a absolute crazy amount of stuff that you can get for free just for being there and partaking in the vendor hall, some of the booths that they have scattered around, and talking to people, just figuring out what's up. And that's something I thought was really cool as well.
And just to clarify, this is at a smaller convention. TROCON, 1,000 attendees perhaps this year, and they're like Step was saying, there's a couple different booths that will have giveaways. So really, what that translates to is if you go to something like BronyCon where the attendance is through the roofs, there's going to be a lot more booths that will have things for you. But going back to what Red was saying, definitely bring some money for the vendor hall, but don't feel pressured to make an instant purchase or buy anything. That was probably one of my biggest mistakes when I first went, is that you make a lot of impulsive buys. You definitely want to dedicate an hour or two of your day to the hall to really analyze, okay, what is there, what do I like the most, and what's worth the price on the item.
My biggest vendor hall advice I could give, I'm back by the way, kind of builds off of
We
Sean's
couldn't tell.
surprise, kind of builds off of Sean's idea, whereas you don't have to make those impulse buys. I did. That's why I spent so much. But my advice that I would have given my old self is go around to every booth, look at what they have. They will have most, if not all, of their stuff on display. Make sure you hit up every booth that sounds interesting to you, and even some that don't, and just look at what they have, especially if you're working on a budget. You kind of think about it and go, oh, you know what? Guy's Ember print was really cool, so I'm going to go back, look at the price, and buy that. And then whatever I have left over, I saw this hat that I like, I saw this shirt that I like, I saw whatever I like, these buttons, this badge, this anything like that. Try to be money savvy. Try to think about what you have as a budget and really look and find out what you really, really like.
Here's an idea just that I used one time. Basically, you just take all the cash, the amount of money you want to spend at the con out of your bank, and just carry. It's not the safest thing to do, but I mean, just carry that out, and then have it on you, and then just if you run out, you run out of your money, and then that's it. Like, I mean, if you don't have self-control, that is. If you do, I mean, go ahead, just carry your card. Most people would accept it.
That's it.
I would agree with K 100%
Go ahead.
on that. I think that really is the best way to do it. That's the way I did it the first time I went to TROCON, and I did the same thing this year. You really do want to budget how much you want to spend, and I physically carried the cash. I wouldn't carry all of it at one time, but I would carry a percentage of it if I knew, okay, today I want to purchase that from that table, because otherwise you will fall into the habit of wanting to withdraw more money or anything like that. And it also kind of teaches you to be a little bit responsible and that you fit the budget and you stick to it.
Yeah, that was my main problem. I carried my card, so I ran out of cash. And I'm like, you know what? I have this little plastic square that I can just kind of swipe and get more cash. So it was like, ooh, I really want that. I really like that, this and that. And I would just swipe my card. And sooner or later, I'm like, oh no, I have so much money put into my merchandise. If you are working on a budget, if you have money that you don't even know what to do with, go ahead. Carry your card. Buy what you want. But if you don't and you need to work on a budget, take out the cash that you are willing to spend and only carry that. Do not carry your card. It's kind of this advice I got from my dad when we would go to the casino. My dad would be like, you know, I'm only here to lose $100. So he would only pull out $100 and only carry that with him. So he wouldn't end up spending more. That's the kind of mentality you would have to have if you're working on a budget.
Since we're talking about the aspect of budgeting at conventions, it is worth mentioning too that I have known people that, like, for example, the withdraw money and hold it on you to not do more money that you don't want to spend actually doesn't work for some people I know. So my word of caution would be to just do whatever works for you, because everyone has their own method of budgeting money. You know what works for you. You know what's going to ultimately get the job done for you. So if what we're saying isn't necessarily what works for you, not a problem. Do it your way.
Oh, yeah, there's always different ways to do it. It varies from person to person. I'm just trying to give ideas for a general blanket, I guess is how you could say it, or an umbrella. Just kind of, this is what I'll say, this is what I'll tell people they probably should do, and this is what I tell people this is what they can do if this is how they're working on it, because that's the only way I can describe it.
Are you sure this isn't the bully? Are you sure this isn't the bullying you pushing the agenda of how you want them to spend their money?
Excuse me? That's not very nice. No, if you know something else works for you, then go for it. That's definitely what you should do, because you know what works best for you over me knowing what works best for you.
Exactly.
Always go with what you feel would be the best option.
And on that note, I'd like to thank everybody who has been in attendance and also my co-hosts here with me. If any of them have any last closing thoughts, you guys can take a few seconds and get those out in the forefront.
I have nothing.
I'd just like to say to the viewers as well, thanks if you're still with us. It was a bit of a long one, but we definitely appreciate you being here. In the future, we may be looking to get some viewer input as well. So keep looking forward to that. Keep watching, and we appreciate you.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate you immensely. We had way more viewers than I thought we would for our first stream ever.
Closing thoughts? Strive for horse fame.